make your mind up. Baby, all it ever does is stress. It's like you're only talking. Going round and around, back around. We'll fight like no other every day. I won't stop like we others. I will stay. 'Cause now's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm playing the game like I know I'm feeling right now. It's the right. It's like I'm looking at tight. So I'll do it on my way. I'm gonna show you what I'm going through. Get you out of your comfort zone. 'Cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you make your mind up. Baby, all it ever does is stress. It's like we're only talking. Going round and around, back around. We'll fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm playing the game like I know I'm feeling right now. It's loving is like I'm looking at tight up so Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. How are you doing? It's Monday morning. I wanted to have a conversation around money moves to make before the end of the year. I'm on all the Facebooks, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So I'm going to get this party started here in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to let people come on, say hello as you're coming on. Let me know that you're in the house. I see people joining. All right. We're getting there. We're getting there. Coach Chris Payne. I see Coach Chris Payne in the house. You guys are great. We've got Facebook dialing up. All right, let's get this thing going. Hey. I wanted to say hello to y'all. I hope you guys are doing amazing on this Monday morning. This is a special live that I'm coming to you live, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show live to you. Nick Harder is in the house. This is awesome. So here's the thing. We are 2 weeks away from the end of the year. And so there's some things that we need to do. We need to think about doing with our money, or at least to set ourselves up for the coming year. So here's the challenge is that too often, now I get it. It is the holiday time. So there's a lot of stuff that we just kind of don't think about. We don't want to work. We start to wind down. We start to just kind of, cruise a little bit. I'm going to ask you not to cruise a little bit. I'm going to ask you to consider what can you do now to set you up for financial success in the coming year, because there are some things we can do today and in these next couple of weeks that we can't do after the year end. And so I want to walk through some of the things that I do every year end, and also that you might want to consider doing yourself to see how things going. So as you jump in, since we're live, do me a favor, let me know you're saying that you're in the house, saying hi. Nick Harder, How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Drew, good to see you. Couple things. Those of you that are watching on Facebook groups or anything, I don't get a chance to see your name. It says Facebook user. So make sure that what you do is you give Restream the approval in your Facebook so I can see your name. I can call you by name instead of calling you Facebook user and all that. So I put the link in the chat. I can do it. I'll do it. I'll see if I can do it again. So you'll want to copy that link address, and let me just pop it in there. You should be able to see that and go from there. All right, so let's get going. Coach Chris Payne, hi from Colorado. So good to have you, and thanks for being here. All right. So the whole idea here is this: how do we take advantage of these last 2 weeks from a financial standpoint to set you up for success, not only in 2022, but in 2021? What are the things that maybe you need to be thinking about that work? So I want to walk through some of the things that I do, and hopefully this informs you. Hopefully this serves you in doing that. I'd love to hear from you. Best place to join is anywhere, just as long as you're approved. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm all over the place. I'm stocking the internets right now. So stocking the internets. I got a presentation in about an hour that I have to do, but I thought I would jump in here to make it happen too. So the very first thing that I do is let me for those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube, you'll be able to see this. But the very first thing I do, number one, is to review my expenses. In other words, I want to know where my money is going, and so here's what ends up happening during the year. That what I've noticed during the year is that we end up in a situation where we take on subscriptions, we take on expenses that are small at the time. They're, $10 subscriptions, $14 subscriptions, $20, $30, whatever it is. At the time, it seems like the amount is small. But some of you have seen me before where I said $50 a week, $200 a month can turn into over $300,000 in wealth. So small amounts taking over time can create a substantial amount of wealth. Now, I'm not telling you to stop your coffees, your lattes, your manicures, all that. I'm asking you to be aware, conscious, and intentional about where your money's going. And the only way to do that is to look at where it's going. And sometimes it's painful to do that. But I literally will get my bank statements out. I actually get my financial statements out because we record everything in our personal accounts and our business accounts in different software. So I know where every dollar is going every day of the week, basically every week of the year. So I want you to take your financial statements. I want you to look at your bank statements or your credit card statements if you don't do financials. And I want you to look at each and every expense. And I want you to ask yourself, do I need it? Now, look for subscriptions especially and say, am I using it? If I haven't used it in 6 months, why am I paying it? Because it's those little things that start to add up in that. So one of the first things that I do is I take the year's expenses and I look at them and I say, what can I change? What is not necessary? What is a need? Okay, a need is survival. A need is the roof over your head. It's the money it's the food in your stomach. It is the clothes on your back. It is shelter. It's transportation. It's not the wants. The wants are things like manicures and pedicures and Netflix and all of those things. So I'm not saying not to do it again. What I'm saying is I want you to consciously do it and not just kind of go along for a ride and just flippantly just put money out and not realize that bill's coming due. It's hitting your credit card every month. You're just paying it off and you're not getting any use out of it. So I want you to look at subscriptions and expenses. That's one of the first things that I do. I will be doing that this weekend. I'm actually traveling. So I'll be traveling this week to speak in Fort Lauderdale. Anyone out there in Fort Lauderdale, let me know. I'll be in Fort Lauderdale. I get there on Wednesday, and I speak on Thursday and Friday, and then I fly home. So I'll probably do it while I'm on the plane, and really just kind of look at it and say, can I take anything out? Are there things that I can renegotiate? Believe it or not, for instance, your internet, your cable bill, a lot of things are negotiable. In fact, those of you who know me know that I kind of believe that everything's negotiable and everything is a negotiation. Now, this is not to come at it from a kind of a difficulty perspective but I come at negotiations with a sense of fun. What is possible, and to be able to do that. We can do a whole nother live or session or episode on how I negotiate and the things that I've negotiated. I've negotiated big deals. I've negotiated parking spots. So it's from soup to nuts. I've done it. So expenses, subscriptions, negotiations. That's the first thing. Number two. The second thing is, have there been any life changes in the last 12 months that you need to think about? So for instance, August 2nd of this year, I became a first-time granddad of a little princess named Emily. Okay, my granddaughter was born. Well, that's a life change. There are things that I want to do to take care of Emily that I didn't have to think about until this year. And so you want to look at your life circumstances. Has it changed? Are you now an empty nester, or do you have new children that just came into your life? Do you have grandchildren that came into your life? Maybe you got married, or you got, God forbid, divorced. That all of those life changes change your financial circumstances, and they change the planning and everything around it. If previously it was you, for instance, before I got married, now I've been married now 10 and a half years to a beautiful, amazing woman. And, but prior to getting married, I was a single full-time dad. It was just Jeremy and I. And so the way I structured my finances, the way I structured my trust and all of that was based on Jeremy and me. And then I met Stephanie. Well, now there was another factor, another person in my life that I wanted to make sure was taken care of. So I needed to restructure things to make sure that now it took care of Stephanie and Jeremy. And then Jeremy got married, and then they had kids. So life circumstances. Was there an illness, or is there something going on? You want to look at life circumstances and ask yourself, does this change the things that I want to do? Now, for instance, those of you that have been listening to my show, I did a specific episode for brand new parents, and I talked about the Emily factor. So one of the things that we're doing is that $25 a week, I'm setting up Emily to be set financially for life. Now, I am a firm believer that we don't give assets to children, we give skill sets to children. And if you listen to that episode, I'll hook it up in the notes here. You'll understand what I mean by that. But we don't just hand them assets without giving them skill sets. So I'm setting up a situation for Emily where she's going to get assets, but she's going to get the skill sets to manage those assets. That'll set her up to a point where she conceivably could have $1.5 million in her name by the time she's ready to retire. And so that changed my financial situation. It changed her financial situation. It changed the way we're dealing with things to make sure that happens. And so what life circumstances dictate that you need to change some of the things that you're doing, which leads me to this other piece. Which leads me to this other piece of this is that you to look at your insurances. Okay. Do you have adequate insurance given your new life circumstances or your current life circumstances? In other words, and I am not one of those that loves insurances, but when we need them, we need them. The fact is that there's some insurances we should have, but I don't. It's not lost on me that the primary goal of insurance companies is not to take care of you. Their primary goal is to collect their premiums. Their secondary goal is to find an exclusion so they don't have to pay out, and their third goal is finally to pay out. Okay, so it's not lost on me that that's the case, but I want to look at things like, do I have adequate life insurance? And I'm a firm believer of term life. I don't believe in using an insurance vehicle as an investment vehicle, because I think I can do, and I have shown that I've done better investing on my own and not allowing an insurance company to do it with all the fees and all the expenses that they take out and gouge us to do that. So make sure that you have life insurance. You might want to check your disability insurance. I think this is the most often neglected and not seen insurance. Consider, especially if you're the wage earner, if you're the income earner in your family. I'll give you for instance. In 1997, 1998, I herniated 3 discs in my back. I literally could not walk. I had pain down to the toes, tingling and everything. And it took a while for me to get back on my feet. And I was a speaker. I was moving. I was doing things. I couldn't do any of that. Well, I have a disability policy called an own occupation disability policy. We can talk about insurance a little deeper, but what it allowed me to do is to get paid, and I got paid 6 figures. They wrote me a check for 6 figures so I could then focus on fixing my back, getting recovered from the back injury without worrying about the expenses. And too often we don't think about this idea of being disabled. And if you're active in any way, the fact of the matter is that there's a higher likelihood of disability than there is of a premature death. And therefore, you want to look at, do I have enough disability insurance? Do I have enough liability insurance? Do I have an umbrella policy to cover things? If I acquired a home, or if I've acquired rental property, if I acquired more assets, do I need more liability insurance? And so I start to look at all of the insurances to make that make sure that I'm clear on that. Health insurance. I've 2-year battle with cancer. I mean, I'm done. I'm free. I'm clear. I'm good. But we're very particular on the health insurance that we have because we want a Cadillac plan. Now I get it. It can be expensive, but what kind of health insurance do I have? Do I want to change? Is there something more appropriate because now I have a family, or I have children, or those are the things that we need to think about. So review expenses and subscriptions. Look at life changes and consider that. Look at your insurances. And one other thing on insurances is to look at your deductibles. What are your deductibles? If your net worth, if your wealth has grown tremendously, you might look at it and say, I'm going to increase the deductibles because I'm not going to make a claim, for $500. So maybe I increase the deductibles, decrease the premiums, so I save some money and I can use that money for something else. Okay. So those are the first 3. Then this is something, I'll leave that for the next one. Let's just look at something else that I think we need to think about. And too often we don't. And that is this. I want you to do a search for tax deductions. You're at the last 2 weeks of the year, and there are certain things that you can do to try and reduce your tax bill in this year. But once the year is over, you can't do it. You can't go back and do it in most cases. So there's some things that I look at is, one, have I maxed out my retirement? If I'm going to use a pre-tax retirement, like a 401k, a defined benefit plan, an IRA, have I maxed that out? Okay, and those are all deductible. Now you might do a Roth where it's not deductible, but there's income limits on there to do that. But I want to make sure that I've maxed out my retirement account, or if it's part of the plan, make sure that I max it out. I max mine out every year, and I max out a 401k, a profit sharing, and a defined benefit plan. So we shield a lot of income from tax, and we keep the money as a wealth, in our net worth and in our wealth creation to make that happen. So I'd look at your retirement accounts and make sure that they're maxed out. The second is that are there donations and charitable things that you want to get involved in? If it's just giving stuff away that maybe is sitting around the house that you haven't looked at, take a charitable donation deduction. Here's the thing to consider is that recently, under the under the last tax act, they changed what they call the standard deduction. So everyone gets approximately $12,500 as a deduction. So some people take that $12,500 and they don't get anything more because they don't have enough expenses. But if you give to your church or your temple and you're tithing and in 1 year you are going to give $10,000, okay? So if I give $10,000, but my standard deduction is 12,000, I don't get that as a deduction if that's all I have. But what happens if I give $10,000 at the end of this year, for 2021, and I give the $10,000 that I intend to give for 2022 in this year? Now I take $20,000 in 1 year. I won't give a donation next year, but I get $20,000, and now I'm over the 12,000 and I get a deduction. So I want to bundle my donations. I want to bundle the deductions to try and make that happen. So that's the second deduction. The third thing to look at, and I'm doing this with some of my high-level one-on-one clients now, is do you have enough paid in so you're not going to get hammered with penalties or things like that? In other words, what are your estimates? Have you made all your estimated tax payments, or do you need to make an adjustment? Now, that might require you talking to your CPA, your tax advisor, and doing some sort of projection. If your income changed dramatically up or down, then there's probably a shift or a change that we need to make sure that you're taken care of. So I look at the estimates in there. Number 4 on the tax deduction list is if you're part of a high deductible health plan, a high deductible health plan that is connected to what we call an HSA, health savings account. Have you maxed the health savings account out? Okay. Have you maxed the health savings account out? This is a wonderful, wonderful benefit under the tax law as it currently is, because you get a deduction for the amount that you contribute to it. And if you take it out for qualified medical expenses, you pay no tax on it. So, and if you don't take it out right away, you don't have to. You can invest it. It'll grow tax-free, and it'll grow and grow. You can reimburse yourself for those taxes 10 years down the road as long as you have records for it, and let it grow. So there's some big strategies around a health savings account if you turn around and maximize it. And then the last thing from a tax deduction standpoint that I would just toy with is it possible? Remember, everyone's got a $12,000 deduction. Is it possible to pay one of your children for services rendered? Jeremy, when he was 11, I started paying him, not a lot. At 11, he was just doing filing and shredding and that kind of thing. But I was paying him like $125 a month, and then I went to $250 and then $500 and everything, because I can then take the deduction. They're not going to pay tax on it and everything. So there may be a vehicle in which you pay your children. Okay, now if they're like Emily, who's 4 or 5 months old, there's nothing I can pay her for because she's not doing anything. Okay, but there are things that we can do to do that. So if you've got your children, one of the things that we did with Jeremy is as I paid him, he got money. It allowed me a couple things. One, to teach him about money, to talk about how you use money, investing it, donation, generosity, savings, and managing expenses. He would pay for his own lunches. He would pay for his own clothing. I mean, indirectly, I paid for it, but he started to learn the value of a dollar and everything. And so it's a great vehicle to make that happen. So tax deductions, you want to look at those, because most of that stuff, if you do not do it by the end of this year, it's done. You can't go back and fix it. So you've got 2 weeks to figure that out and make sure that you're dialed in. That leads me to the last 2 things that I want to talk about. And the first one is this: is every year, and I actually do it every month, but then I go through a detailed review every single year at the end of the year of my net worth. That is, net worth is everything I own. So the net worth is taking all your assets, okay, all your assets, everything you own, okay, your houses, your investment accounts, your retirement accounts, your cash, all the assets, the stuff you own, and figuring out how much they're worth today, okay, or at the end of the year. And then figuring out everything you owe, your liabilities, okay? This is debts. It could be car loans. It could be student loans. It could be credit card. It could be mortgages, all the debt. And so you have the assets, you have the liabilities, you subtract the liabilities from the assets. So you might subtract the liabilities from the assets. That gives you what we call net worth, okay? And hopefully that number is positive. If it isn't, we've got work to do. And if it isn't, let me help you. You can, here, I'll give you something. This is totally free. You can go to a free 7-day training that I have called the Money Plan Workshop. I'll walk you through the fundamentals to get a solid, unshakable foundation underneath you. 7 days for free. Just go to themoneyplanworkshop.com if you want to do that. But we want to know our net worth. Not only do we want to know our net worth, I want to know how much of the net worth is making money for me. It's what I call investable net worth. For instance, I'm in my home office. I'm in my home. It's a nice home. There's a lot of value in the home, but it's not an asset in the context of my investable net worth. My total net worth it is, but my investable net worth is only those assets that can produce cash flow or produce wealth over time. Well, this house I'm living in, so there is a value to it, but it's not creating cash flow. In fact, I'm paying out because we're doing things to the house and the expenses and all that stuff. So I don't see it as an investable asset. I see it as an asset, but not an investable asset. So I look at my total net worth, total assets minus liabilities, and I look at my investable net worth. This is the investable assets, the things that produce cash flow and increase my wealth over time. These are rental properties, investments, and stocks, bonds, ETFs, all of those things minus liabilities. That's the investable net worth. Those are the things that I do. For that program, or to get access to that 7 days, is just go to themoneyplanworkshop.com, themoneyplanworkshop.com, and you can opt in for free and do that. So I always want to know my net worth, and we track our net worth because that is, so remember what I said. If you follow me for any length of time, you know that my perspective is that a business, too often entrepreneurs come to their business for the wrong reasons. They think that their business is going to give them freedom. They think they're going to be in control of everything. And maybe you felt that way, and it's just not the case. It's just not the case. See, when we come to our business expecting that we will be free and fully in control of everything, and we find ourselves on the treadmill, running, trying to produce the income, trying to produce the sales, trying to get the customers, and trying to make the profits and keep things going, and then we want to scale it and we want to grow it, and we're running faster and running harder. There's no freedom in that. Now, totally different subject. There are 5 levels of income, and we need to start working for all 5 levels of income. We can talk about it another time, but understand this: your objective, the business's sole objective, is to have an impact by creating solutions in the world that are meaningful and to create cash flow for you. So it's to have an impact by creating solutions in the world that are meaningful and to create cash flow for you. And then you take that cash flow and you create the second machine. You have the business machine, you have the second machine we need to create, and that is the money machine. Your freedom is birthed out of the money machine. Your freedom is birthed out of the money machine. The money machine is the wealth creation. Your net worth, your investable net worth, is the money machine. So it's important for us to track it. And I track mine monthly. If you're not doing it monthly or quarterly, at least do it annually. Even if the numbers aren't what you want them to be, at least you have awareness, you have understanding, and now we can make some decisions to change the trajectory. We can figure out what the gap is. We can figure out what the knowledge is that you need to make that happen. Hopefully you get what I'm putting down. Hopefully this is making sense. Okay. And then the last thing I do at the end of the year is this. So I review my expenses, my subscriptions, I cancel, I negotiate, I eliminate, I do all that. So I'm aware and all that. I look at my insurances and review my insurances for adequacy. I look at the deductibles, look at anything that I need to change or adjust to make that happen. I look at for tax deductions at the end of the year that are important to get in place to get that taken care of. And I want to make sure that I have my estimates done properly. And then we look at the net worth statement. And I do this with my spouse, the net worth statement. So, with Stephanie, she's aware of where we are and where we're going and all that. And then the last piece is we set our financial goals, our affluence vision goals for 2022, for the next year. In other words, for those of you that are part of the Affluence Blueprint, and you've been through the Affluence Visioning process, it's a special, unique process that we take you through to really start to dive into what that life is that you're trying to create out there in the world. And so I review that. Because I've done it before, I don't start from scratch. I review that. We review that together each year at the end of the year and say, what's changed? Where do we want to go? What does our life look like? Are we on track? Do we have the money? Do we have the wealth? Where's the gap in that? And if you're looking to figure out how to set your goals for 2022, I just released an episode today, episode 39 on the Affluent Entrepreneur Show. You can go to the affluententrepreneurshow.com and listen to it, because I think a lot of people are getting it wrong. We spend too much time focusing on goal setting. We got all these fabulous goals that we set and we write them out and we do all that, but we don't ever spend the time figuring out how do we get goal getting. I want you all to get your goals and not just set your goals. And so this whole episode is talking about the very specific process, the goal getting triad, if you will, that I use to make sure that I'm going and getting the goals and not just setting the goals. So this last piece is to sit back and go, what do I want 2022 and beyond to look like? What do I want next year and beyond to look like? To set goals and then set the process in place to go get the goals and make them real. These are the things that I do each and every year at the end of the year about these last couple of weeks. I know you're sitting back going, but it's the holidays. That sounds like a whole lot of work. It is at times, but I promise you this, your future self, your family, your legacy, everyone will thank you for it. And by you developing the behaviors and the habits of what wealthy people do, you will become what wealthy people are. And if you know me, money is agnostic. It isn't evil, even though people try to demonize it. But it is the thing that funds our missions. It's the thing that funds our movements. It is the thing that allows us to create meaning out in the world by changing lives, by having an impact. You all know and heard the story about my dear friend Allison J. Prince. With her ability to earn, she has given the possibility to 8,000 families by creating microloans through her business to women in third world countries. Now, you might want to do, clean water. You might want to do something with trafficking. I do a lot of stuff with abuse and violence against women and children, and then animals, and that type of thing. So whatever it is, we want to create something that makes a difference in people's lives. We don't need the wealth for the sake of wealth. We need the wealth for the sake of causes, the sake of missions, the sake of life, to make a difference in a bigger way. So hopefully that helps. So that's what I got for you today. I just wanted to jump in here and say, hey, what are you doing these last 2 weeks? There's some things you can do to save money. There's some things you can do to make money. There's some things you can do to set you up for financial success in the coming year and beyond. And give you some tools and give you some tactics and strategies to go out and get it. And if I can help you, let me know. You know that the Affluent Entrepreneur Show is all about you and it is for you. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things that you want me to talk about or bring on, whether it's wealth creation, it's money, it's business, it's any of that stuff, reach out. Let me know. We'll do a show on it. We'll do an episode on it. We'll answer the questions. We'll bring you on in some cases, and we'll coach you through it. Okay. And then again, if you want that 7-day money plan workshop, just go to the 7-day the moneyplanworkshop.com, the moneyplanworkshop.com. It's totally free. I'm gonna walk you through everything from how to get out of debt, how do you blow out the money stories, the investing basics, all that stuff to help you out. I want to make sure that the coming 12 months is a breakthrough year for you, and that we're on this journey together to make that happen. And if there's anything I can do, reach out to me. So thank you for being here. I am going live in a presentation coming up in just a little bit. But I want to jump in here real quick. I'm going to see if there's any questions or anything coming in. Let me know. Say hello, and we'll make it happen. So let me just check. I see this says pay in before end of the year, the tax-free or tax deductions. Pay max to the IRA. Pay us. Oh, I don't know who this is. It says Facebook user. Thank you so much for listing out the key things in there. Aim, is that Amelin? Amelin? I'm not sure if I pronounced it. I am butchering that name, and I so apologize. But thank you for being here too. Okay. Hashtag goal getting triad. Absolutely. Yes. Wealth for the sake of causes and missions. That's the way it is. All right. What's the best type of retirement account for small business owners? Nick Harder. Good question. So this is dependent upon, okay. It's dependent upon a couple of things. One, your income level. You can put money into an IRA or a Roth IRA, and that's going to max out at $6,000. If you're over 50, you can get $7,000 in it. But if you have a larger income, then one of the things, and no employees, this is good to know, no employees, then you might want to look at a solo 401k. A solo 401k allows you to put away, so you can shield approximately $20,000. So I could take a salary, reduce it by the $20,000 I put in. But if I have a profit sharing piece to that, I can actually increase the profit sharing deduction to as much as $50,000. So I can put $64,000 away in my 401k profit sharing plan. So that's the step up. So IRA, solo 401k. And if you have really large income, then what you're going to want to think about doing is potentially look at a defined benefit plan. So there's a difference between a defined benefit plan and a 401k plan. Most retirement plans, this is a great question. Most retirement plans, you put money in and you just keep putting money in. They're called defined contribution plans. You put money in, and then over the years, it grows, and you make investments, and it grows and it grows. And whatever you have at the end of your time where you decide to retire, that's what you have. It could be 100,000, it could be 1 million, it could be nothing. Okay. The defined benefit plan is different. The defined benefit plan says, I want to have this benefit when I retire, and I'm going to retire at age 65. And say you want to have a benefit of $1 million when you retire. They get actuaries to get in, and they do a calculation based on your life expectancy. And they say, okay, in order to hit the $1 million mark, you have to put, $200,000 away because you've got a short period of time. So for instance, I'm 60, and last year, I put over $200,000 in a defined benefit plan away because the timeline between where I am today and when I'm going to retire is short. So in order to get to that $1 million, it takes a lot more. So if you're looking for higher deductions and you don't have employees, you might want to look at a defined benefit plan. Otherwise, I would start with a solo 401k. Now, it's not just a solo 401k. You want a solo 401k plus a profit sharing that will max out your contribution in north of $50,000. Okay. Great question. Mr. Nick Harder's in the house. So, other questions? Anything else? All right, you beautiful people. You guys go have an incredible, incredible week. Um, and Nick, just hit me up if you have more questions. Hit me up and we'll chat and we can be more specific. And you guys have it's Laura from the Affluence Blueprint. Oh man, do you pick one pot to put tax deduction in, or what is this? I'm missing. I'm missing the whole thing. Laura, post that in one more time. Let me see. It says just starting the Affluence building. So she's one of the new members in the Affluence Blueprint. It said, do you pick one pot to put tax deductions in, or? And I don't, and then it just goes away. So let me know. I'll hang out for a couple minutes if that comes in. Let me see if I show it up on the screen. What does it do? Oh, to action or it just says or, so I don't know. I just need the rest of it. But bottom line is that I'm going to mix up my tax deductions. I'm going to look at them and I'll prioritize which deductions I want to take. If I have a health savings account, if I have the IRA or the 401k, that type of thing, because they'll work together based on your overall plan. And Laura, we can talk more about that on one of our calls. So good deal. I'm going to get ready. I've got a keynote that I got to do in just 20 minutes. You guys have a rocking day, a rocking week, and hit me up if you have questions. Hit me up if you need anything, and hit me up just to say hi. All right. And let me know how I can serve. All right. Remember, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show's there for you. I'm here for you. And, our Facebook group and some of the things that we're doing will be there for you to help. So cheers to you all. You guys have an incredible, incredible day. And I can't wait to see you again, to chat again. All right. Cheers.